Welcome to our on-demand training for the statewide Environmental Project Tracker, or SWEPT. This video demonstrates how to fill out the Type 2 CE form on SWEPT and submit it for review. For this demonstration, I'll be logged into our SWEPT testing server as a project editor. I'll show you the functionality of the tool and how the various types of input fields work. Towards the end of the demonstration, I'll show you how to submit the document to the project manager for review. We assume you already know the basics of using SWEPT. If not, you can view the introductory SWEPT training videos. I'll show you where to find those videos on SWEPT and on the OEM website after the demonstration. Let's get started. Here we are on the first page of the Type 2 CE determination tool. Just a reminder that we are on our testing server. SWEPT requires us to use an actual FM number, so we are pulling information from various projects. But this example is for training and demonstration purposes only, and we're not actually changing an actual project file. As you can see on this page, it gives an overview of the status of the document. You'll see that some of the sections are in progress and there's a couple ready for review. We have 2 editors, and one of which is the project manager, and we have the district environmental manager also assigned. This team, as it's set up right now, are the people that were identified when the project was set up in the project setup tool. At this point, if we want to add some additional people to edit the document, we can do that. For example, let's go ahead and add a subject matter expert to our social and public involvement section. So I click the edit button and it's asking me who I want to make changes, showing me who's already there, and I can click the button to add more editors. I start typing in somebody's name. And this has to be somebody who is assigned as has a user account in SWEPT. I can click the select all on or off depending on which sections I want. I can assign a person all the topics or just one or more, as many as is appropriate for that person. And then I click the add editor and it saves it. Now at this point, I can close this and I have my editor team set up. The way this project team is currently set up is we have the editors, the project manager, and the district environmental manager. We don't have any additional reviewers at this point. That means when the document is sent for review, it will go straight from the editors to the project manager. You may want to add an interim review team to review it before it gets to the project manager. And to do that, we use the edit link next to the reviewers. First person we're going to add is our lead reviewer. And this is a person who is responsible for reviewing it before it goes to the project manager themselves, or they can coordinate with a team of reviewers. You'll notice I cannot actually assign specific sections to this person. This person is automatically assigned to all of them. But if I have some subject matter experts who I want to review just specific people, I can add them after I've added the lead reviewer. So I'm going to add more reviewers because I want to add somebody to review just the engineering section. So I'm going to add Chris here and assign him to the engineering and click add reviewer and save. And now I have my review team and my editor team set up. And you'll notice Kristen's name is showing up here under the lead reviewer. I click next to go to the next section. You may recall that I could have also clicked any of these links on the right. This particular page is the project information containing some of the basic information about the project. You'll notice at the top here we have a link to the chapter that provides more guidance and the requirements and expectations about information and the content of this particular page. Many of our pages also have links to videos that have been made by our subject matter experts. So generally, information pulled in from the work program is here. It's not editable. There are some items at the top that are editable. For example, the ETDM number. If this project had gone through the ETDM process and it wasn't automatically linked finding the FM number, you can click the edit button and either start typing the name or the ETDM number and try and find the project that went through as ETDM. In this case, it wasn't, so I am not going to select one. I'm just going to cancel that. There are some FM numbers that are related to the project, and they've been added here previously by the project team. You can add more or remove them by just clicking the edit button, remove them by clicking the X, or adding more by typing them in the box. Next, you can also add cooperating agencies. Here you just start typing in a name of an agency and then select it from the list when it shows up. Again, click Save to keep that on the project, or X if you need to remove one. I don't need to save this, so I'm actually going to take that off since there are no cooperating agencies in my pretend project. If there were, I could also use this Find Technical Materials button to find and update a correspondence. And this would be just our typical uploading tool that we use in SWEPT. You'll notice throughout the tool that we have these buttons that says Find Technical Materials, and these will let you add files from your project records that are referenced but not actually attached to the document. Participating agencies, again, same functionality as with the cooperating agencies. Next, we have our district contact information, which you just type in the name of the person, the title, address, and phone number that will appear on the cover page, and their email. And this is the contact person for that project that will be published with the environmental document. You may include consulting firm information, which would appear on the second page, and it just asks for the firm and the project manager. Next, we start on our answering questions about the project. The first one is, has FDEP determined coastal zone consistency? There's a link to the chapter where you can find more information. You answer either yes or no. If you select yes, SWEPT is expecting that there would be an ETDM number because that's part of our coastal zone consistency determination process. And once you put that in, if it was determined through that process, it would find the date, which you could edit if some extra coordination occurred later with DEP. In this case, we're going to say no, and we have to provide comments on why it's no. So you can just type in there, or you can copy and paste from a separate document. Next, we go to the project description. And this is just a editor box. And again, I copy and paste in here, or I could just type it. I have some formatting options. For example, I may want to bold this figure number. I can also italics or underline things, add bullets, numbers. I have the option of adding pictures or images. You'll notice the instructions here is about the project location map is you could add it within this text editor or select upload and insert it. If you have a image to insert, you just click that image button and then you can go to the upload, or there's an option if you've been uploading pictures before, you can go to recent images and it will show pictures that you've added to recently in Swept. So I did that option. The other option is just the typical upload, browse to the document. Once I've added the picture, I can right click on it and change some of the formatting. For example, I could change the size. I can put a label, which you would want to do because if you don't, this shadow text is going to appear. It will be aligned underneath the figure, centered under the picture. I can actually align the image itself as left, middle, or right. I'm going to leave this. This preserve aspect ratio affects the sizing. If I want to make it smaller or bigger, if I have that checked on, it will keep the dimensions of the image. So I am going to make that a little smaller. And then I say okay when I'm done. And you'll see it has added the little figure and my label. Next, I'm going to upload a project location map. I click upload, and you'll notice I have two options. In this case, the project team had previously uploaded the location map, and Swept is finding it and allowing me to choose that existing one. I could also click the upload new file if it wasn't already uploaded and use our standard project file upload techniques. In this case, I'm going to just choose that. And it provides a link to the file here. Now, this, because I chose to use this option instead of embedding it in the text box, this will appear as a separate page between the table of contents and this project information section. Next is purpose and need statement. I can copy and paste something from another document or just type it in. And just like before, I can do some formatting. In this case, I would like to make this list of plans a bullet list. And again, I can add images. I can also preview the content in any of these, and this just shows us that particular box, how it would look on the page, and it might help you in terms of formatting and adjusting things. For example, I think I would like to have a extra line between that paragraph, and now I can go in there. Now that I've seen what it's going to look like, I can go in and make sure that that appears the way I want it to be. If there are any other technical materials or attachments that I want to add to the file, I can do that here. Again, technical materials are referenced and they'll appear in the technical materials list in the document, but will not be included in the Type 2 PDF. An attachment, on the other hand, will be listed and included in the PDF. I don't have any more here, and I think this one's good to go, so I'm going to click this box and say it's ready for review by the district. I have the option here of just sending this particular section to the review team at this point. And this is something of preference with your team. The team may want to get everything at once, or they may want to see it piece by piece, especially a subject matter expert. They might just want their section. So that's your choice. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and get them all ready and send it to the team at once. But again, that's just a preference of the team itself. So I click Save and Continue, or again, I can click the green box. In either case, it's going to save my work and load the next section. This next section is planning consistency. Very similar to the other section in terms of functionality. We have some guidance at the top. We show you the status, and then there's a list of questions to answer. Is it entirely funded, yes or no? Notice, depending on the question, more questions may appear. That helps narrow it down. If I say yes, I may put some general comments if I want to. I do not have to. If it's currently adopted, yes or no. And again, if it's not, I need to provide details. If it is, I say yes and provide the information below. And this has already been entered in. These are just text boxes. So each phase, you put in the amounts, the fiscal year, and any comments that you have showing what the funding is. You will also be expected to add the project consistency documentation. In this case, I'm going to upload the file just to show you how that works. I click the choose file. It takes me to my folders. I choose the file, and it uploads the information. Notice that it's important here to add the title or brief description. This is how that title will appear in your document. So you want it to be some plain English. By default, it will actually copy the file name in there. Usually the questions below are the default answers, so you can answer those as appropriate. You can also add additional EDMS attributes if you will be searching for those documents in the EDMS system as well as in SWEPT. When you're done, you click Save, and it uploads the file. You can also, in all of our sections, add commitments by clicking this commitment button. It opens a text editor, and you would just add something. And notice it starts to build a table, and it's going to add these commitments one at a time. So I'm going to add another one just so you can see what that looks like. And so I have my second commitment, and it lists them, and they will also appear, as you'll see later, in the commitment summary. You can edit them or remove them using the buttons at the right. Again, there's an opportunity to add more attachments or technical materials. You can also sort how the attachments are loaded. And I actually have two of these. I only need one, so I'm going to delete one of them. And that's how you do that. And now I'm going to say it's ready for review. Continuing to the next section, the form takes me to social and economic. In this case, you'll notice we have a training video and a chapter at the top. The first question on any of these resource sections will be, were there significant impacts to social and economic resources? If you say yes to any of these questions, note that you will need to stop proceeding as a type 2. So it's going to ask you to confirm, are you sure there are significant impacts? If so, the project cannot proceed. And not only can it not proceed, but it will lock up the form so that no one else wastes their time filling out the form. So in this case, I'm going to say no, because I don't want to lock it up. If you do have significant impacts to any of the resources, you should talk to your project development coordinator at OEM. For the social section, it asks information about each of the resources that appear in the social and economic section of the document. Each of the subsections have links to the appropriate sections. You have an option to check if it's an enhancement. If you check that, it will check the environmental summary table that will appear in the PDF. In this case, the expectation is that a summary of the evaluation is provided. You'll see throughout the form blue boxes with notes that guide you on what kind of information should be included. And if you have any questions, of course, you go to the chapter or view the videos or coordinate with your project development coordinator. Most of the rest of this section is functionality-wise, is very typical of what I showed you in the previous section. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom because there is one that I want to show you that is different under the relocation potential section. Here I can indicate if it's not present or present. And notice how, depending on my answer, the standard statement changes. If it's present, we get one standard statement. If it's not present, we get a different one. In either case, it will automatically be included in the PDF. Depending on your answer, again, you'll have additional information or summary comments to provide. Under farmlands, there's a slightly different functionality with the standard statement. In this case, depending on my answers, I get down to this particular standard statement and it's asking me for the name of the urban area. Just type it in and then click outside of that box and it will save it. And when you're done, you say you're ready to review. Next, I'm going to go to the cultural resources section. In this section, I just wanted to show you one thing that's a little unique here is down in the section 4F. There is some functionality under the section 4F part of this tool that I wanted to show you. It's a little bit different than what I've shown you in the other sections. If you have section 4F resources present and it's not an individual 4F, you may have actually prepared the section 4F documentation using our swept section 4F tool. If you've done that, you can choose this option, checkbox that says include section 4F resource attachment, which will bring it in automatically from our swept tool. If you have additional documentation, you can also attach that, or if this particular section 4F documentation was done before that tool was available, you can also attach them separately. But it could be an either or. If you did everything in the new tool, you select this option and you will not have to attach anything else. Otherwise, if you didn't use that, you would still have the option of attaching those. So everything else in this section is just pretty standard in terms of functionality. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it's ready for review. Next to natural resources. Also in progress, also has training videos. There is a option under wild and scenic rivers that's a little bit unique. I wanted to show you that, so I'm going to scroll down. But in general, you'll see for each of the different topics, there's videos, there's standard statements that come in automatically, there's notes to help guide you through it. Under wild and scenic rivers, again, depending on the context of your project, you're going to answer the questions, either present or not present. If it's present, it's either impacted or not impacted. If it's not impacted, you would tell which type of river we're talking about, federally designated, study, national, or Florida. And notice how the standard statement changes. There's only one Florida wild and scenic river, and so that one is hard-coded in there, the name of the river. The National Rivers Inventory is a big list of rivers. We are in SWEPT not able to identify which river it would be, so you would need to type that name in. Study River, again, there's only one in Florida, and then federally designated, you would, in this case, select from a list. We do indicate for you which districts these appear in. So depending on where your project is, you can select the appropriate one. In this case, it's not present, so just a standard statement that they're none present will appear. When I'm done with that, I say it's ready for review. Under physical resources, I just wanted to point out the noise. There are specific definitions and instructions here in terms of selecting whether it's a type 1 or a type 3. You'll notice there's no type 2 because that's not applicable in Florida. These are designations for both federal and state. And depending on your options, your standard statement will change and you'll give a summary. Click send for review, and that one's ready for review. Next, in the engineering analysis support section, this standard statement works a little bit differently. You will first use the Find Technical Materials button to reference the file or files, and then you go to the standard statement and you select which file will complete the sentence. If you've only entered one, it'll default to that particular file. In the permit section, you have the options to identify the status of specific types of permits that you're expecting. You can say whether it's not applicable, to be acquired, the application submitted, or the permit received. In this case, the options were all not applicable or to be acquired. You can also add local permits or any other permits. The ones listed here are the most common federal and state permits that we use on DOT projects. In the public involvement section, the one important thing to note is that you must have a public involvement plan. SWEPT does not enforce a lot of the requirements for which documents are necessary for a particular project. That's left up to the discretion of the project team, knowing the expectations of the PD&E manual, which depending on the context of your project may vary. So the public involvement plan, though, is required as part of our performance measures under NEPA. So all our projects must have a public involvement plan. So that particular document is required in order to proceed with the review. So make sure that that one's updated. And then otherwise, you're summarizing your activities, answering the questions about hearings, and attaching things like your transcripts, your hearing certifications, and other documentation about your public involvement. And once that's ready, you say that's ready for review. Next, we go to the commitment summary. And this is a list of the commitments that you would have entered under other sections. If you need to edit these, you need to go back to the section and edit them there. If you have additional commitments that don't apply to any of those categories, you can add commitments to this section, and they would be added just the same way as I showed you when we added those earlier. And when that's ready, click the button. The next approvals page is just showing you what the statements that will appear on the cover page for the approvals. Next, we go to technical materials, and this shows you and provides you with links to the documents that you have indicated and referenced throughout the document. In the PDF, these will not be linked. They'll just be listed based on the title that you gave it. And the attachments on the tool here are also links, and they will actually be fully incorporated into the approved document when it's approved. So you can double check to make sure you've got all of those. And then finally, you click the send for review, and when you can either send the sections that are ready for review to your reviewers individually, or click this to send all of them. And when you send them, the folks will get an email with links to them. Notice you can also update the information that will be provided when it goes to OEM for their review. Now, once the project manager finishes reviewing, all of these sections will need to be set to ready to go to OEM. But when it's within a district review, you can send them one at a time up to the project manager, and at that point they all go together. And that completes this demonstration of the functionality of the Type 2 CE form in SWEPT. Now that you know how to fill out the form, you may want to view the next video on the series to see how district reviewers use and submit the form. If you have questions about what information to include in the form, check out any of our section-specific videos. You can find the Type 2 CE videos on SWEPT under Help, along with additional resources such as quick reference guides. They're also available on the applicable pages of the tool itself, as I pointed out in the demo. If you do not have access to SWEPT, you can find the videos on the OEM website, located at the address shown on this slide. Please feel free to contact us if you have additional questions. For information about our procedures and guidance, contact the OEM Project Development Coordinator or engineer assigned to your district. For assistance using SWEPT, please contact our OEM Help Desk. We're here for you and happy to help. Thank you.